From Acres USA, you are listening to the Acres USA podcast, a conversational podcast where we'll explore sustainable farming, regenerative practices, and the latest innovations in eco-agriculture with some of your favorite farmers and ranchers. I'm your host, Taylor Henry, the owner and CEO of Acres USA. Welcome to the Acres USA podcast. All right, today we are joined with Anne Molloy, who are you the president, CEO, owner of Neptune's Harvest?
I'm one of the owners. It's family business.
Yeah, it's a really cool multi-generational family business. They operate in our space. They're one of our advertisers, and they work with fertilizers, and we'll get into where they get their material from, which is kind of an interesting story. So, Anne, I think give us a little bit of a background on you and give us a little background on Neptune's Harvest.
Sure. So, we are a family business in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And it started out that my grandfather, my father were a fisherman, and then they missed their family, so they wanted a shore job. So they went into the seafood business. They bought my grandfather, and then he sold it to my dad, a wharf here in Gloucester. And we've unloaded fishing boats and been a seafood business. My grandfather since the 20s, then my dad since 1965. And in the 80s, there was a plant here that took all the fish remains, we call it gurry, and they went out of business. And so, they made pet food, I guess, and they went out of business. So we were forced to pay fishermen to take the fish remains, the gurry, back out to sea. And when you fillet a fish, 60 to 70% is left over. So we were throwing away more than we were keeping. And so my dad and my uncle were like, this is a very valuable product we're throwing away. And we have a lot of kids, nieces, nephews, cousins all working here. Maybe if we can use 100% of the fish and not throw away so much, we can keep everybody employed. And that's how we ended up turning the rest into fertilizer and ended up in the fertilizer business. And that was in the 80s.
Huh. What's the difference between, you said, so they moved to seafood, but before they were fishermen, so they would go out for what, weeks at a time?
Yeah, yep.
What's the difference?
Yeah, my grandfather was out on the schooners, that's how long ago that was. And he was gone for a long, long time, months. And they'd travel with the fish and unload at different ports. And, he would send love letters back to my grandmother at the time and ended up courting her just through letters. And then they got married and had kids, and he wanted to be ashore. So he started a seafood business. And then my dad, same story. He was out fishing for 10, 12 days at a time, home for a day or two, back out at sea. And my oldest brother, Sandy, started to call my grandfather Dad. And my father's like, I'm killing myself, out there fishing, sleeping 4 hours a day to come home and hear my son call my father-in-law Dad. So he ended up buying a fish wharf and unloading boats and selling, shellfish, whole fish, filleted fish, things like that. And, very little education. My grandfather and my dad both had to drop out of school to feed the family and go fishing. So they just did it with hard work, ambition, and kind of street smarts.
Yeah, so your son will be the fifth generation?
So
In the business?
I'm third. My
Fourth?
son would be the fourth, and my sister's grandson works for us, Max. He's in the office now.
Oh,
He
nice.
started in the warehouse, and now we moved him into the office, and so he's fifth generation.
So that's a interesting topic in itself with, obviously farmers are dealing with that all the time, how to pass it on to the next generation. What's some of the things that you think your grandfather and your dad made sure that they instilled in the business to be able to pass it on to the next generation?
A lot of hard work. We all started at the bottom. Nobody starts with a desk job. Everybody starts unloading the boats, getting up at 3 a.m, shoveling ice, really at the very bottom, and then works their way through different aspects of the company based on their skills. My son runs the warehouse. He does some trade shows, but he's not a desk kind of guy. So he doesn't really want to sit at a desk all day and do sales. But, based on, I have a nephew that's really good at computers, so he does our computer work. And you just got to see what people are good at. But I think they instilled a lot of hard work, values, making us do it all. So we knew every aspect of the building, of the business, and pride, basically taking pride in what you do, and um, being some people that really care about the customers and not just the bottom line of dollars, but having good morals when it comes to working with people and making sure you take care of people in the right way. Always having a real person answer the phone, just things like that.
What was it like in the process when your dad handed it down to the next generation? What were those conversations like? When did he? Because I think that's probably the biggest problem I see with people handing it on to the next generation is actually handing the keys over to them. So he obviously had a lot of trust in you guys
Yeah,
to be able to, their life work, pass it on to you.
yeah.
Was
Well,
was he alive for a while you guys were running it?
yeah, he retired very late. So we have five kids in the family. So I have three brothers. I'm the youngest out of the five. And I have a sister that was also like a bookkeeper. But basically, he would work with my brothers, each one doing what they were best at. My brother Lenny kind of became the heir apparent for my dad doing what he did because he had the right skills for it, and he worked with my dad, and then my dad started giving him more and more responsibility. Then he started going to Florida in the winters, and he would come in the summer months, but in the winter he was in Florida, and my brother Lenny picked up the ball and ran with it. And then my dad would still come in till he was in his 80s, really. He was still active, and then basically when he passed away he just left it to us, and we had to figure it out from there.
Yeah, well, that's an impressive story. So going back to, what a problem solving situation, classic entrepreneurship here, where you have a waste product that maybe you weren't making very much on, it actually became more of a liability to you, and you turned it into an asset and a money generator. You want to talk about a little bit more of that process that they came about, actually getting it to the form where it can become a
Yeah.
fertilizer?
So in the 80s when we got started, Gloucester was processing a ton of fish. It was before a lot of the strict government regulations on the fishing industry, and we were doing, hundreds of thousands of pounds of fish a week, and we weren't the only processor in town. So it was a big problem with all these companies having to pay fishermen to take it back out to sea and dump it. And my dad had a good friend that worked for the University of Massachusetts Marine Station, and they were out to dinner one night, and he just said, we could help you figure out a process to turn this into fertilizer. So basically, the University of Massachusetts Marine Station here in Gloucester had a huge impact on helping us develop the process. So we grind it up, we liquefy it, we stabilize it so it won't rot. It has an indefinite shelf life. We bring the pH down to 3.5, which it's still approved organic by OMRI, because we only use enough to stabilize the fish, and then that gives it an indefinite shelf life until you add water. We worked with Norwegian company that we flew over here and put them up at hotels to help us get the machinery up and working right. And it took us about 10 years and close to $1 million to get it up and running properly to a process that we really are happy with. And it was a lot of trial and error, and we totally changed the machine over the years from what we got from Norway, and kind of a lot of on the job training, and learned as we went with what worked, what didn't, tweak this, another pump here, whatever we had to do. And finally, we have a product that we're really proud of. It takes 10 pounds of fish curry to make 1 gallon of fertilizer. So if we grind 5,000 pounds of gurry in a day, we only end up with 500 gallons. So you have to grind a lot to get product to sell to farms. We have a 5,000 gallon tanker truck. We have 275-gallon totes, 55-gallon drums. It takes a lot of gurry to fill all the product for our needs. But we've finally got it dialed in.
So when did they first start testing this product on farms? Was it right away?
Yeah,
Is that part of the 10-year
yeah, late
process?
80s, I'd say we were up and running really, good. A lot of the cranberry bogs in Massachusetts were the first to test it. and blueberry growers in Maine, and a lot of hay and pasture people around New England, and citrus growers in Florida. Those were some of our very first customers that used it, and the feedback was phenomenal.
Yeah. What is your process like versus other types of companies that are in a similar type of niche?
So nobody
Like
does it like we do it
what
because we kind
process?
of invented what we do. The fish we use is the best. It's all caught well offshore in the cold, clean, mineral-rich North Atlantic Ocean, and that makes a big difference where the fish swim. It's not lake fish. It's not river fish. It's not Gulf of Maine. I mean, I'm sorry, it is Gulf of Maine, not Gulf of Mexico. It's not farm fish. It's not one species of fish. It's multiple species of fish like haddock and cod and flounder, hake, cusk, pollock, all different fish that people eat, probably 20 different species approximately. And we unload the boats. We're a seafood company still to this day. We unload the boats right at our dock. So the fish is very fresh. It's not stinky at all. So even after we have a final product, it's not perfume, but it's certainly not disgusting smelling like a lot of emulsions and fish out there that are pretty thick. And we don't cook it. We have a cold process all the way through, which is huge for keeping your heat sensitive nutrients intact and the enzymes alive. So if you have a barrel of fish that's, fish fertilizer that's been sitting there for 10 years, it's still going to work great. And in fact, maybe even a little better to run through the equipment because it keeps getting thinner and thinner as those enzymes are constantly breaking down the product. So, that is a huge part. The where the fish swim, how fresh it is when we grind it, the many species and the cold process, and then we screen it through a 165 mesh screen initially, and then when it goes into the final containers, whether it be a tote, a drum, or a tanker truck, we rescreen it again right as it goes into that container through a 150 micron screen. So it's thin. It's like chocolate milk. It's not thick like an emulsion, and it's not apt to clog your equipment.
Got it. So there's a lot of places that will create the emulsion. You guys create a hydrolyzed fish product.
Yes.
Is that how
Yep.
you would
Cold
describe it?
process hydrolyzed fish, and it's all ocean. Well off the coast, so pretty nice and clean. Still, knock on wood, water out there, and it's cold. The colder the water, the more minerals that are in the fish and in the water. So that's why I believe our fish tastes so delicious, and it's so healthy for us and healthy for plants and soil. And the whole world was under ocean water at
Yeah.
one point, right? Um, Charles Walters said, and a lot of people said this for years and years and years. The person that started Acres USA was an avid fish person and seaweed person because of all and he wrote books on it about sea energy agriculture, I think, something like that. But it's all about products from the ocean because the whole world was under ocean water at one time. They found fish fossils on the top of Mount Everest, so it kind of makes sense why these products work so well.
Yeah, a lot of the background on this. Charles Walters wrote the Fertility from the Ocean Deep,
Yeah,
Sea Energy, Agriculture, which is by Maynard Murray,
that's
and
right.
then Food Power from the Sea is another one that we carry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes tons of sense that there's this connection. The fact that we were completely, just a giant ocean at one point, and these minerals are something that we can't get from other places. So as you guys have expanded, and I'm sure you've diversified kind of what you're carrying. What else are you including in your fertilizers now besides just the fish?
Yeah, we're up to I think 9 liquids and two dry, maybe 10 liquids and two dry. We have seaweed. We do dry kelp meal, and we do liquid seaweed, and we do a soluble seaweed extract powder that you can mix with water and apply. We do crab and lobster shell that's ground up and put through a mill. And we have a liquid version of that. We've found a way to micronize it so fine that it actually will stay in suspension in a liquid, and it's got the chitin. We don't manufacture, but we sell a lot of humate, liquid humate. We've found what we feel is the best around, and that's what we sell. We sell microbes, and um, we sell. We have some specialty formulas where we're mixing fish and seaweed and molasses and humate, yucca extract, some microbes, some added liquid calcium, things like that for our turf formula, lawn starter, tomato and veg formula, rose and flowering formula. Those are more for the homeowner, specialty crop growers, because they're obviously more expensive. But we do have a wide array of products that can help people with different things. We sell pints, quarts, gallons to retail, and then we have the 5 gallon, 55 gallon, 275 gallon, 5,000 for farmers. So we kind of run the gamut from a pint to a 5,000 gallon tanker truck. Most of our farmers buy the straight fish. A lot of especially vegetable growers really like the fish seaweed blend. The seaweed has a ton of benefits, so some people like to buy that separate. But yeah, we've really diversified. Almost all the things we sell do come from the North Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, what are you seeing as far as farming operations? Like, is it our grain farmers, corn and soybean? Is it wheat farmers? Is it grass based? Who's having the most success with this?
Everybody that uses it has great success. We probably sell to more hay and pasture, 8 per acre, than anything else. It raises the relative feed value, the total digestible nutrients, the bricks, and sugar, and it makes very nutrient dense feed. So they love it because it breaks down the manure faster, less flies, more dung beetles, builds the organic matter, soil drains better, retains moisture better. You know that goes for anything you're growing. Honestly, you can draw nitrogen from the atmosphere when your soil's that healthy. I'm sure Acres people know all about that, but I really think it shows amazing results on everything. The blueberry growers are astounded with the higher bricks, the higher yield. Like percent of rejects is almost nothing compared to what it used to be. The cranberry growers still having great success. Vegetable growers, it increases the yield, it increases the flavor, increases the nutritional value. Great for seedlings, gets them off to a great start. As a foliar feed, it absorbs the nutrients into the leaf. It's systemic, so the nutrition goes right into the leaf, down the stems, and into the roots. So you get more bang for your buck. It also feeds the biological life in the soil, so it makes it very healthy. Um, it gives you some drought protection, some frost protection, and it's a great deer repellent. We sell it to farmers that could care less it's fertilizer, they could care less it's organic. They just buy it for a deer repellent. So that's a great natural deer repellent, and you get the bonus of a great fertilizer. So we do sell to all different. We sell to people that put it on corn, field corn, sweet corn, and wheat and soybean. And I've got testimonials on our website under farmers that talk about the amazing results on their soybean. So I hate to say it's just good for that, because honestly, it does work on everything.
Yeah, what do you think? Have you guys done studies on the mechanisms on why is it causing this reaction? Is it because of the minerals that are coming out of the ocean? What things are farmers getting out of it where they can then turn and replace their fertilizer bill with it?
Yeah, so with the fish, you're not just getting NPK, you're getting those macronutrients, but you're also getting micronutrients, trace elements, amino acids, vitamins, enzymes, minerals, growth hormones that are naturally in fish that make fish grow. You're getting all your omega oils. So you're giving the plant and soil everything it needs in nature's perfect balance. So really, that's why I think it works so well. You're just getting so much out of it all in one product.
Yeah. What's some of the misconceptions that you guys deal with or you get feedback for why people might not want to try fish-based
Well,
fertilizers?
some people have tried other fish and just, not liked it as much. It clogged their sprayer. It smelled bad. So I think those are give every fish a bad name. Like, oh, I tried fish, not for me. But unless you tried our fish, it really is a huge difference. So it's worth trying. I always highly recommend people try it at least on one patch, of their, give us a couple acres and side by side and compare. And that way you can just see for yourself. most of our distributors are farmers that turned into distributors because their neighbors are like, "Well, what did you do on your field that I didn't do? Because why does your stuff look so good?" I've had grape growers like half the state lost their grapes this year, but ours were okay because it had the higher bricks and the frost protection. And um, just I think that once people see what it does, they're customers for life, and they're telling their friends, their neighbors, and other farmers around them want to start buying it. So they made it take 3 or 4 totes for themselves, and then the next order they're taking, 6 for their neighbor wants some, and then before you know it, they're distributors that are buying truckloads and supplying people in their area.
Yeah. So, say I want to spray a 20-acre pasture or hayfield. What is the application process? What do we get from Neptune's harvest, and then how do we turn it into what we are actually spraying on the ground?
So if your soil's in good shape, if you're organic and you have good organic matter and earthworms and things are looking good, 2 gallons an acre is plenty. You're going to mix that with 20 gallons of water. You could go less. We sell to farmers, ranchers in Montana that'll go out 3 to 1. So you can go out less, but ideally, if you can get enough water with it, 1 to 10 is where we want to see it at least. More water is never a problem. So 2 gallons of fish with 20 gallons of water per acre. And for pasture, once a month, every 21 days, once a month is perfect. And for hay, you would do it at least after every cutting for sure. Well, first when it comes out of dormancy, and then after every cutting. But a lot of farmers or ranchers are saying if they spray 2 to 3 weeks prior to cutting, it really bumps that yield up, greens it up real nice, and it raises that relative feed value, total digestible nutrients up so much. It helps with that nutrient density so much that it's worth that extra spray. And if they crush it down a little bit, a lot of people are worried about that, but they say it bounces back enough. And if you harvest in the opposite direction of where you sprayed, it's not a problem. So that extra spray 2 to 3 weeks prior to cutting is great. And then after you cut, you wait for a little stubble to come back up, and then you spray again. So if you're doing it 2 times, it's 4 gallons per acre per cutting.
You worked with many people who are grazing using this
Absolutely.
product.
Yep. We've had people
Would it
say their horses follow the tractor behind. If you spray half your field, your animals will all go graze where you sprayed, like clockwork, at every single time. I don't know if I think it's just the nutrient value that's in it, and it may be raising the bricks. It tastes better, but they'll go and eat where you sprayed every time. Horses have been known to follow the sprayer, like I said. They just love it. People don't have to worry about re-entry time, so some people, will just spray and not worry about it, or if they rotate, they'll spray behind. But it's great for pasture. Like I said, it breaks the manure down so much faster. You have a lot less flies, a lot more dung beetles. Really healthy. It'll build your organic matter all the time, deeper and deeper, which is going to retain moisture, so you don't have to water as much or worry about water as much. And it also drains better. So if you have a ton of rain, you're not going to have a flood. Like if you're chemically fertilizing and your fertilizer is your soils like cement, you're gonna have all runoff. Where if you have healthy organic matter, it'll drain in and retain that moisture. So yeah, that's a
Yeah.
huge part of our business. People that do pasture.
Are you seeing? Uh, are your clients putting this on every year, all the times when they cut the hay, or is it something that you're seeing over extended periods of time? Maybe you only have to put it on at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year, or do you recommend just following those cuttings or those grazes?
Yeah. So if you're a chemical farmer transitioning, you use a lot more. And then that's why I said if it's organic, you start with the 2 gallons an acre. If not, you're gonna, use 4, or you're gonna do a lot more sprayings and things to help that soil get better. But I do recommend staying with the program throughout the years. Even 2 gallons an acre is not a lot. It's kind of a good maintenance though, if you really want to keep that nutritional value going with your crops every year. And the animals, I've had many farmer tell me that the animals are eating less. They'll eat. One guy in Colorado said his animals were just getting pickings in the winter, so they counted on that hay because he was up in Dinosaur, Colorado, and he said that his animals ate half the hay compared to what he used to do conventional or just no fertilizer or just manure. He said that the animals actually ate half the hay. So you're increasing your yield and they're eating a lot less. So it literally pays for itself.
Yeah. Would you, is anyone, say, cutting hay and then spraying the, uh, the windrows after it's cut, or you recommend mainly it happens when the plants are actively growing?
You can spray the windrows. It's going to store the nutrients in the soil, but it's best to have a little bit of stubble at least because then it's systemic and that's just going to carry it down into the roots. So that's helpful. But and a lot of farmers do the residue spray too after they harvest in the fall. It'll break that all down a lot quicker and it'll go into your soil as organic matter. It's like, for example, it's a fantastic compost enhancer. You could spray your compost pile and get usable compost in half the time because it just feeds all those microbes and it gets it all going so much faster. So it's
Okay.
kind of
Well,
the same thing.
that makes sense. Um, is there anything else that you would say is, an important thing for anyone that's considering trying this out?
We can send you our mixing guide. There's things you want to do, like you want to stir it. You want to flush your pump with clear water right away after you pump out what you need because it's stabilized with phosphoric acid, which is corrosive. You want to flush your sprayer right away after you're done spraying it or your irrigation equipment. Run clear water through it right away because if you don't, the oils in the fish are going to dry in your lines and could clog emitters. So whenever you're done running the fish through any of your equipment, flush it immediately. Don't store it diluted because once you dilute it, the pH goes up and it'll still work, but it's going to smell like rotting fish if you let it sit more than 3 or 4 hours. So use it up,
Yeah.
mix only what you're going to use and flush your equipment and stir it well. Those are pretty important things to know.
What are people using to mix it up? Are they using, I'm sure larger farms have, plenty of equipment, but are you seeing people use like IBC totes and just putting putting a mixer in there, or what's the best way to mix the
Yeah,
solution?
so our totes, our 275-gallon IBC totes have a valve on the bottom and then the hole on the top, and you can put a pump on that, a hole in the bottom, and just circulate it around. Some people will put in a paint stirrer, like a little blade on the end of a drill, and then those long drill bits that with a little paint stirrer thing, and they'll just stick it into the 55-gallon drum or the tote and just use a cordless drill, and that'll mix it up.
Yeah.
Um, Big farmers that have tankers, need a way to circulate it through the tank. We have the 5,000-gallon tanker doesn't have baffles, so you can't unload half here and half there unless it's a few miles apart and you go very, very slow. But so you have to have a tank big enough to take the whole 5,000 gallons, and those guys have circulation systems in there pretty much. So yeah, there's different ways to stir it.
Yeah, and you provide all that information
Yep.
once someone
We have a
orders.
mixing guide, and there's links to like Basco's pumps and sprayer. I mean, not sprayers, but pumps and stir different ways to stir it and pump it. We don't sell them because
Have you seen
it's cheaper for people to go
have you
direct.
seen have you seen conventional folks who possibly, have old sprayers that if they're making the transition, are they able to reutilize those sprayers with this solution? They probably got to swap out different tips.
Yeah, absolutely. You can use that equipment, clean it out good. Flood jet nozzles, boom jet nozzles work really well with our product. Um, Yeah, we've got plenty of
Awesome.
conventional farmers switching over because, it used to be organic was more expensive. It's the opposite now. They're just looking to
Yeah.
save some money and grow a good crop, and once they try it, they're hooked.
It makes a lot of sense, and I think your story is definitely really interesting. I think the fact that you guys have had so many generations in your family, that's really really remarkable. So congratulations on continuing the ship forward.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We've had a booth at Acres for over 30 years. We love you guys. We've definitely I've learned more at going to Acres conferences than anything else in my life by far. I've had some of the best conversations after the conference at the bar, at the restaurant. I've had dinner with a lot of your speakers over the years. I've just learned so much. The most interesting conversations I've ever had in my life have been after an Acres conference, at dinner, or at the bar. I mean, really deep, wild, interesting conversations about agriculture. I did not know it could be so amazing and fascinating. And, I learned about radionics there. I learned about so many very, very cool things at Acres. And the reason I know so much about farming is because I've been to so many Acres conferences. So really appreciate what you guys have done. The very first year I was there, I rode down the elevator with Charles Walters and I said, "Are you here for the Acres conference?" I didn't even know who he was. It was funny, but that was a long time.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Do you remember what your first year was?
Oh, it was probably 30 years ago, so whatever that backs out to. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to make sure you get back this next year for our 50th, and we'll have to go back and do some math and figure out how many conferences that you've been to.
Yeah, the last few years it conflicts with a music festival I go to in Mexico on the beach. So I've been on where other people have been going, the younger workers, but I don't think I'm going to Mexico actually next year, so I'll have to get back and come to Acres and see if any of the old people I used to hang out with are still going.
Yeah, we had a few of them back. Hopefully, we get some more back this year for the 50th. But yeah, it's always nice hearing about some of the history that I didn't get to directly experience. But it's been rewarding to listen to folks just like you that have had it's had such a good impact on your life. So we appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, thank you.
So Anne, where should people find Neptune's Harvest? What's the easiest way to get a hold of you guys and kind of search around for some of your products?
Sure. So if you go to our website, our website is geared towards home gardeners mostly, but there is a farmer section, and on that farmer section, there's a distributor locator map, and you can put in your zip code, hit enter, and the closest distributor to you will pop up. Also, there's a leave a comment section on our website, and that'll come directly to my email. So if you go to the contact us page and put in a comment, it'll come to my email directly. There's an 800 number on the website, so pretty easy to find us that way. It's just neptunesharvest.com, pretty easy to find. And be happy to send out literature pricing, get shipping quotes, answer questions, all that stuff.
Yeah, and you can always find them in our monthly magazine as well. So thank you very much, Anne. We appreciate you guys working with us, and that was a really interesting story about your background. Is there anything else you want the audience to know, or last parting words?
No, not really. Don't worry, it's Gurry.
That's a great saying. All right, thanks, Anne.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Acres USA podcast, a podcast production of Acres USA. Find us on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, and other popular podcast platforms. Acres USA is North America's oldest publisher on production-scale organic and regenerative farming. For more than 50 years, our mission has been to help farmers, ranchers, and market gardeners grow food profitably, regeneratively, and with nature in mind. Find our books and other Acres USA media and learn about Acres USA events at acresusa.com. Read our online magazine at members.acresusa.com, and we'd like to thank Acres USA staff for their contributions to producing this podcast. This episode was edited and engineered by Weston Larson of Acres USA. We're grateful to our guests for taking the time to talk with us about their